I've got a confession to make.
I need to get this off my chest. As a business owner, we all make mistakes.
I've got to confess.
All right, it's time for another episode of Confessions of a Business Owner. This is episode 8, and joining me as usual is the one and only Kim Barrett. Kim Barrett, how you doing?
Doing awesome, man. How you doing?
I am absolutely loving life at the moment. Obviously, well, not obviously to the listeners, but from my point of view, I actually have been getting to spend a lot more time with you. We just got to share a great experience and great start to the year by being in Bali, being at the Unstoppable Mastermind and hanging out in person for a change.
Yeah, it was so fun. It's funny when you spend so much time with people online and then you get to actually hang out and, in a more relaxed atmosphere, few drinks, bit of enjoyment, do some speaking and whatnot as well. But yeah, it was great fun.
There's always that initial, like we've obviously met in person before. So you and me, it's not so much, but there was people at the event I've only ever spoken to online. And there's always that initial awkwardness. It's quite funny when you see someone, it's like, oh my God, are they real? And like, can I touch them? Can I? And then at that point there, and the example I'll use is Chris. Like Chris is a giant. I did not expect him to be so tall. So
Yeah.
Chris, big shout out, met you at the Mastermind, fantastic dude. But I really, really had a moment where I thought about how great these events are and doing things in person. So what was your biggest takeaway from the event?
I mean, the biggest thing for me is I got to have a lot of my team there. So it was really cool. And it was just really focusing on getting them to see what happens when I go to these events, why they're so important for our business as well. Whereas, sometimes they're like, oh, Kim's gone on another holiday. I'm sure he's going to have a great time. But then they see kind of the behind the scenes, what happens, how involved we are. And then the interaction we have with other people is just really, really cool. And I think they got to see a lot of that. So that was the biggest thing for me, really.
Yeah, that's huge, dude. And I'll tell you what, your team is awesome. And the amount of work they put in at that event, I thought was fantastic. And from my point of view, I'm not someone that goes or holds events like that. So I was absolutely blown away with the amount of work and organization that goes into them. So to the Unstoppable family and their team, and to you and your team, what an amazing effort. And also Kelvin's team, which happens to be your brother, who I thought was a phenomenal videographer and sound AV effort. Phenomenal.
Yeah, no, he does a great job. It was funny. I think the best part of the whole event for me was when he was in his robe, walking around catching B-roll of a belly dancer. So it sounds weird. We may have to talk about it one day at another time. But it was just the best visual thing I've seen in my life. It was hilarious.
No, I actually did think about that for another episode because we've got a very important topic to cover today. But for another episode, I really think we should cover what goes in to making a great event because I know you've got some awesome material on this stuff that goes into, filling the event, marketing the event, but then all the logistics and actually running an event is a whole other side that I don't think's covered very well at all, to be honest. I haven't seen a lot of great information on this. I think everyone just kind of finds their own way, but I think it'd be really valuable to get a lot more from your side of things on how to run and fill an amazing event at some point.
Yeah, definitely. I think it will be great. But what was your, like, obviously you actually got to spend an extra bit of time there as well. Even your amazing VA Juvie, she was giving me a little bit of stick saying, Kim, you should have stayed back and relaxed. What's wrong with you? But you could spend a bit of extra time. What was your biggest takeaway from the trip over?
Yeah, so the biggest takeaway from me is that after being, I'm not going to say isolated because that's not the right word, but after spending a lot of time, I'm going to say in my own bubble. So spending time in my own bubble, it became really clear to me at this event that I've only been trying to solve problems or do things with what's around me at the moment and the people I know at the moment. Which, don't get me wrong, I think I do a pretty good job of doing that. But being at this event, and connecting with new people, I feel like my sphere has opened up to opportunities, ideas, ways of solving problems, ways to do things that I didn't have before. And that was the big reminder for me on events is like how powerful it can be to hang out with other amazing business owners and understand things from a different perspective.
Yeah, so true. And that's why I always say to people, it's like, I don't even think, like, always when you go to an event, the content and information you get is good, but it's all those other things. And it can just be a passing conversation on the way to the bathroom. Like, that is what actually, blows up your mind and with what's possible and what you can actually do.
Yeah, absolutely. And believe it or not, today's podcast topic actually came from a question I was asked by Brian Swan, who's one of the Unstoppable family. And this wasn't at the event. This was actually after, I think it might have been on a breakfast one morning before we'd even done anything. So this was a passing comment and a passing conversation that I thought would make an awesome episode. So do you want to unveil the topic for today, or reveal, I should say, the topic?
Yeah, definitely. So the topic for today is, what would I do if I was you? So essentially, Charlie and I are looking at each other's businesses and said, if I'm the CEO of Outsourcing Angels, or Charlie's the CEO of Your Social Voice, what would we do in those situations? And then see what magic comes from there.
Well, I must admit, I'm a little bit nervous. You're a smart fella, and I'm like, oh, what am I missing? But I must say, what a great thing to do. I've actually done this maybe once or twice before, but I'm thinking it should be something I do more regularly because, I often take for granted the quality of people I've got around me. And to hear from your perspective what you would do to my business if you were me, and vice versa, I think is going to be super, super valuable for both of us.
Yeah, 100%. I'm excited. I can't wait. I'm definitely going to be listening after and taking notes on this episode.
Well, I guess I'll get you to open up here. So, what we're going to do is we've got 3 points each. We've got three things that we would change or improve or do to each other's businesses. I don't know what Kim's are, so I guess we'll see. But you get to go first and reveal the first point and give a bit of an explanation.
Okay, cool. So again, and neither of us know necessarily if we could already be doing part of these, right? But we'll see what happens. So my first one is build squadrons, right? And I don't know why I have a very kind of military-ish theme in some of the things that I've said here today. But so when I say build squadrons, what I mean by that is finding different areas for business owners where they have something. Let's just say, for an example, a webinar, a book launch, a live event, whatever it may be, and having your squadron or team that is just absolutely honed in on deploying and working systems for that. So all they do, let's just say someone's got a webinar and they go, cool, they set all these 55 different elements of a world-class webinar up. They go in and they just drop that in. And that's it. And they go and deploy that for people. So instead of hiring a simple VA for one task, you hire a squadron to come in and hit something out of the park for you, or everything 100% to the to world class standards that just get absolutely knocked out of the park.
Oh, Kim, I'm actually reaching over to my notebook, and anyone on the video can see this one coming out at the moment. I'm going to be writing that one down. So, what drew you to this insight? Why do you feel that would be a good idea for Outsourcing Angel or myself?
The reason why I think it will be really good for Outsourcing Angels is because, or actually, I won't tell you that yet because that ties into my second point. So I'll kind of leave you hanging on that just for a minute because, the second point will explain why. Like, I think a lot of people can see why that would be beneficial, but the secondary benefit of that will come in my next point. So I won't tell you why just yet. I'm just going to be a little cheeky on that one.
Oh, well, I tell you what is very, very interesting there is that is something that has been in my sphere for a while. And obviously, we've spoken a lot about this as well, is like I've actually kind of started doing that in a way, but not that specific. So I'm impressed that you've taken note of that and very, very curious on how you see it playing out, because that very well could be a great idea I've overlooked.
Yeah, so I think you'll like my next point that ties it back. But I'm excited now. I want to hear, what's your number one point for Your Social Voice as the new CEO? What are you doing?
Ooh, new CEO. I'm ready for this one. So, as we were in Bali, I was very, very fortunate to see you speak. And I see a lot of speakers, and I mean this as a massive compliment. Without doubt, you are the best speaker I have seen that brings personality through to their presentation. I see a lot of very, very talented speakers who maybe have great speaking skills, but absolutely you take the cake in bringing your sense of humor, your way of explaining things in simple to understand form, and just enjoyment of seeing you act. I think you're very, very talented at that. So I can see why you've been aiming to get on the stage more, and it's a skill and craft you've put together very, very well. So on the base of that, I, as new CEO of this business, think that you need to consider hiring a proper CEO so you can make that the majority of what you do. I have no doubt that you will see massive, massive growth in making sure you get to do more of that for people and having someone who can steer the ship so you're not playing in both seats of speaker and CEO, which is a huge role to be doing both of them of a business that's your size.
I love it, man. That's great. And it's definitely something that's been on my radar more, as it is something that I like. But I know as well the bottom line effect of when I speak, and then we get, so many new inquiries and things like that. So, and I thank you very much for the compliment as well. So yeah, I think that's something that I've definitely, as you know, I've been trying, we're working on our goal of hands-free by 30th of June 2018 as well. So not fingers crossed, but once we get to that point is when I really want to scale out the back end of the year with events and stuff, because we have about 4 months after that where I've got nothing booked yet. So I'm very excited. So I love that. That's awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. Like I say that wholeheartedly. I don't give out a compliment like that easily. And I want you to take it serious. There's no sugarcoating on that. I mean, as you know, we see a lot of speakers and I hold you in that regard. And I just see exponential growth if you had that in place.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much.
And just as a side note, anyone listening to this, if you ever get the chance to go see Kim speak, I would just highly encourage it just for the art form because it's very, very well put together.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, I'm ready. Number 2, hit me. Hit me. Be kind. Be kind.
All right. So here's why. So obviously the first one was to build squadrons, right? But then number 2 was to have then the squadrons productize what they build. So what I mean by that is then have them building a product, information-based product, or something of the like, where they go, cool, if you can't afford to have the squadron come in and do this for you, you can have a product, which is a 95-step, blah, 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 whatever, everything to achieving this goal that this squadron would do. And then after that, if they really want it, they want the deployment of the squadron. That's the upsell. So they can buy the product that the squadron build by becoming a squadron, that you develop their internal systems, policies, and procedures that will do that product, and then productize that so that someone wants to do webinar, book launch, event, whatever it is, there's a product that's infinitely scalable, and then they can be upsold to the squadron deploying that for them.
Do you know what? You've actually just brought my eyes to something that I didn't see, is we already have a lot of those systems documented. Like, no shock, I'm a systems guy. We use a lot of these tools. There's a lot of systems documented, but I never thought about the idea of selling that. Now, why I like that so much is because you've now just added an info product to a service business that's predominantly people-based. So for us, that adds a lot more scale. Like we can sell a lot of info and give people great results from that without necessarily increasing the need of the team. And on the other side, anyone who buys that product and is aware of the system and then gets the team to do it, they're already in tune with what's going to be done. They're just unleashing what you've already bought. And anyone that's just on the audio can't see me holding up my hand like this is what you bought in the hand. But for anyone on video, you got to enjoy that.
Yeah, no, and because I thought, when I was looking at what I would do, is that you yourself, you mentioned a lot. It's like you are like, and I would say one of the kings of people automation. And I was like, well, from a CEO standpoint, if I'm going, cool, how can I add more profitability, cash flow, without necessarily having to increase any portion of my overheads? Because if I have a team that are doing it, obviously they're finitely limited by the amount of hours that they can go and deploy on something. But then if all of that is productized, which is what we did, like we did this ourselves. We had a product and we were doing a done for you service, and it cost us so much money. I think we burnt through probably close to like $100,000 on this process. And at the end, I was like, I don't want to deal with these people anymore because I get this frustration around this. And then I was like, well, we have everything that people would need to be successful. Why can't they just do it themselves? And I was like, well, if I give them a checklist and a process, they can, and I don't need any team to do that. We've already put in the hard work, the hard yards, and the hours, and now we have something that is basically infinitely profitable. It's only the cost of acquisition of a client for that. And then if they really want the done for you part after, they can pay a premium, and we'll just be operating on executing that blueprint.
Yeah, I just think about how powerful that is as a lens on every business though. So it doesn't matter if you're in product or service, if you were then selling info products, just the amount of range it offers you.
Mm.
Like, I love that. I like that so much. And I've got my notebook here. I've actually put both of them in. I knew I'd need it for this episode because no doubt there was things that were coming out. And I recognize that that's actually probably a big hole in the outsourcing angel business. Like, I'm sure if we made some systems for, webinar, podcast, whatever it may be, there's a huge chance that just selling that system has a lot of value to people and provides great training. So thank you so much. I really like that.
No, you're very welcome. I knew you would already have all the stuff there anyway, right? So it's a lot easier for you because you've already got all the parts there. But like, it was just funny because Calvin, who was over with us in Bali, is launching a webinar at the moment, and just like seeing not the frustration, but like how many things he got halfway through and was like, oh, I haven't done this yet, so I have to go and do that now, or like, and how much you have to scramble and how much time that wastes as well. It's like, well, if you had a special checklist, you just ticked off the boxes as you went through that, it will be like, infinitely more time available to you because you wouldn't be wasting it trying to figure out what goes next.
Yeah, and that's a huge point on its own. And like Calvin, which shout out to Calvin, it was so good to meet you in Bali and spend a bit of time with you. Great dude in person, and hopefully he will listen to this episode. But he shouldn't be doing that at all.
Mm.
Like that stuff there is like his talent is clearly elsewhere. He's very talented in the personal development space and training and teaching space. Setting up tech webinar stuff is not a good use of his time at all. So we need to get that stuff off his plate, and for everyone else in that same boat.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, I think I think you guys will be able to hit it out of the park because everyone, like, that's what everyone needs. It's like, it's not just a want or desire. It's like, it's a necessity for being successful with it.
Well, the one that comes to mind is podcasting, because I've literally just spent a lot of time building a podcasting system and a podcasting team and everything podcasting because it's been a fascination for me. So I'm actually thinking this might be the first one to test. This might be the way to try it as a single service. The Squadron in Force doing one service really, really well with the checklist and system, and see how it goes.
Yeah, exactly. And then that'll identify any holes and you fill the holes, and then you have a full product that's, you can do anything with.
Dude, I love it. I love it a lot. I really like it. Now, what's funny is how close my point 2 is to your point 2.
All right, hit me with it.
Now, again, and it's quite timely that I got to spend some time with your team in Bali. So this was something that I found was very interesting. In your business, you have absolute rock stars. I think you've got some phenomenal team, but a lot of your business depends on them. So one of the things I noticed is for a lot of the services you offer with Facebook, for instance, is that it's a very people reliant service and custom service over a system service. So this one's a little bit like your, it's going to tie in with point 3. But for point 2, I felt that your service offering needed to be more of a system that was around fewer services so that it could be executed at scale more easily. And the reason I say this, and I'll go through it from there, is you do Facebook ads as an example for a service. So you're doing lead gen and Facebook marketing. But what's required for a yoga studio is very, very different than what's required from an accounting firm. Like the copy that goes into them, like there's a lot that's similar, but there's a lot that's different. And I think for any marketing agency to offer services to both can be very, very difficult. And I think you've done very, very well at sticking to Facebook instead of trying to do all services under the sun at once, because Facebook in itself is such an amazing platform. But if it was me as the CEO, I would want him to niche that down even further so that I could get leverage through my clients. And I just want to go deeper is that if you've got, and I'm just using these as examples, but if you had 10 yoga studios, when you run a test for one, if something works, you can then transfer those results to the 9 others. So you're getting a lot of leverage in the testing. You're getting a lot of leverage in understanding the niche really well and not what's working and not working. And you can provide a higher level of consistency to those accounts. And again, that can be very, very difficult to do. And this was a really big struggle point when I had my agency, is when you're doing so many different services for so many different clients, the requirement on talent and team goes through the roof. So do less and more systemized is point 2.
Nice. I like it. I like it a lot. I'm just writing that down.
That's funny. This will be the episode where we're both taking notes.
Yeah,
It's
take
gonna
notes of it.
I'm gonna show my notebook to the camera right now to see. There we go. It's getting in there.
Love it. Love it. All right. Well, are you ready for me to unveil my last one? This one may not really make sense.
Well,
to start.
lucky this is a call and not a text message because I can ask you to explain it in more
Yeah.
detail.
You can say, tell me that a bit more. So basically, the last one. So when I was thinking at this morning, right? So outsourcing angels. One of the biggest things that I would say for people is that when they bring a VA on board, is that they don't really know how to operate with them. They think they have systems in place and ways of explaining things, but they don't really, right? And that's where they would fail with the VA. So I'm looking at
You just have to pause right there. That is the biggest failing we have at Outsourcing Angel. That is the number one reason people don't have success with a VA, right there in that
Yeah.
sentence.
and it would be the only reason why they wouldn't continue, right? Because if they were getting good results and they had that in place, then there would be never any reason why they would ever stop using a service. So what I was thinking is to have a VA trained up in building systems for VAs. So have someone who goes in and go, cool, you don't have an email system, this system, this system. Let me come into your business and help you with that so that then you can use our VAs from there.
So what you're saying, and I'm going to label this VA the problem solver.
Yeah.
Problem solver VA, and what this person does, and I'm even going to put that in brackets, creates the system for someone to operate with.
Yeah. Exactly. So the same as kind of what we said in some of the other things. It's like, cool, if you have a squadron, well, your whole team is a squadron of VAs. So for them, they need to have someone to build. If you could have someone build and go in and go, cool, I'm going to build your 3 areas were social media, email, and this. I'm going to build that. I'm going to help you have that set up so that when your new VA comes in, you have those systems for them to execute on, and you don't have to pretend that you do, and then 2 months' time say your VA is not working because you actually have no system and no idea what you're doing.
Yeah, dude, that's actually huge. You've just, and I just want to go over these three. Is number one is like, you're obviously very system minded at the moment, by the way, which I really like. So number one is we're building these squadrons, which I'm hoping you're okay with us stealing that name because we're going to roll with it. Number two is that for every service that we can get a squadron to do, we're also making an info business.
Mhm.
Okay, so now we've got info products to help the squadrons do work or just for people to use as a standalone. And then number three I've got here is the system VA or the problem solver VA we're going through from here. So initially, once someone signs up for the service, this one goes in and does deep recon, special ops, finds the things that need to be done. And everything has come back to an army phrasing I've noticed, or military phrasing at the moment, but we'll go with it.
I feel like their name should be Rambo. I feel like that's kind of, that should definitely hire someone only if their name is Rambo for this one.
What do you think we'll call this VA? Counterintelligence?
Yeah. Definitely.
So this is our James Bond type of VA. It goes in there for the problem solving and tells the team what needs to be built or used on that level.
Yeah.
That's huge, man. That's absolutely huge. I think one of the things that's interesting there, and for a time, we actually really tried to solve this with meetings up front. So before we would have a meeting with someone and we would talk with them about, what are you going to get your VA to do? And then we'd flag these type of things. But what I like about this is that's not reliant on me or Lynn. Is this could literally be a role that a VA has and could be very trained up in. Like this could be a set of questions. This could be systems we've already got. Like at last count, man, we've got more than 100 systems built out for things like this. I dare say one's close, or we might need a new one and add that to the list. And then we can give that to someone to use and operate within their business. So they're getting a lot more grunt. Like they're getting better ROI if they do this properly.
Exactly. And they'll never want to leave. Like, because I was thinking, so I've been doing the process as well. I'm looking for a personal VA in the next month or so from Outsourcing Angel. So I've been doing my email and different bits and pieces. And even when I was doing my email, I was creating different tabs in the shared spreadsheet, going in and tagging my contacts and building that in. I was like, oh, imagine if like with a few questions from me or a few voicemails, my email system was built for me to then to hand on to that person. I'll be like, that would be, because and I don't mind at the moment because I really want to make sure I get everything right going through it. But I'm like, if I was ridiculously busy or something like that, I would be, like before, I'd be like, yeah, I can outsource my emails to someone. but I didn't even have half of this done. And now that I've fully got it done, I'm like, wow, if someone came in on day one, gave me that before I started, I'm like, wow, this is simple. And then they ask me questions and I give them feedback and they go tag everything. And then it's all updated on a spreadsheet for then someone else to manage. I'd be like, whoa, that's like, so that'll be so valuable to me, to alleviate that time at the beginning, but then know it's set up right for when someone comes in, because then there's going to be a system and product for them to do on how they would execute on email. So it's like, cool, this is our system that all our clients use for managing their email. There you go. You do training on that first, and when you go in, minimal adoption time.
I really see this because a lot of people that do come to Outsourcing Angel already have a good idea of what needs to be done. And there are a lot of clients we have that are very well set up to just hit the ground running. But I do see there's an immense value in this type of premium service because it changes us to be so different from being compared to our other people in this industry. Because I don't know anyone else that could pull this off.
Yeah, exactly. And I was, because when I think about it, it's like, cool, if I want to bring on someone to do it and someone came and did that, I would be like, far out, because from day one, I'm 99% of the way there of getting my emails outsourced, apart from random questions and stuff, as opposed to building up to that over 2 months. It's like the adoption period is so much faster. And for me, I'll be like, I know I need to have all the things in the background first. And like, maybe if you're getting busy, 10, 20% might get done. But if you've got 80% of the systems there for someone to run and you're plugging in your business into them, and then they just come in and manage that, and you've got a training on how they're going to manage that, and it's the same system across the board, then it's like, man, that's just like next level.
Do you know the thing I'm thinking about as well is like what kind of a wow moment that would create? Like, I think this is actually a referral machine in itself as well, because if you get that done, as if you're not going to tell someone about it.
Yeah, 100%. And if you think like, when I think about that as well, if you look at you did some examples and gave shout outs to like the W and stuff when you're away, when they go and like, if you imagine that a new hotel location is a new client coming in, that's what they do. They deploy all that. It's not like, oh, the new person that's taking over managing that hotel has to figure everything out. It's like, no, here's all that stuff. You do training first, then all these things get deployed, and you're operating as a business unit, and you're successful. It's like, should be at like, if you replicate that like level of deployment into things, into virtual assistants for business owners and big businesses and whatnot, it's just like absolutely knock out of the park.
It's a big level up. It's one of those things that's really making me think a lot. And just for reference, the W is a resort in Bali, which is in Seminyak. And if you are ever there, I highly encourage you to go there, even for a breakfast or a lunch, or stay there just to see how amazing this business is. It is the best business system I think I've ever seen. The level of service and detail these guys have for their brand is just amazing. So anyone that is there, and a big shout out, like I'm not endorsed or anything by the W. I'm just thoroughly impressed and want to hang out there more for the experience.
Yeah, such a good place.
It's very cool. And we should do a whole episode on this at some point. But when I left the W, and I just have to quickly say this, is on leaving, I would have been happy to pay twice as much for what I got. And I just thought that's exactly what I need to be able to create for other people in my business. If I got people leaving my business feeling like that, that's truly like when you've got your shit nailed.
Yeah.
That's the level. And I tell you what you've just mentioned isn't far away from creating that.
Yeah, I think it could. Yeah, I was like, and if that happened to me in any, like even a portion of that, I would be like far out. And obviously, at the moment, I do want to do it so I learn it myself and have that discipline around for future things. But it's like, if I was super time poor and that happened, I would just be like who are these guys? This is next level.
Well, I want to take it a step further. I almost feel like this should be a mini course. Like, we should really have something set up in Kajabi to make, or not make, I don't want to force people to do anything. I shouldn't say that. But we should have a mini course. It's like someone signs on for a VA and we should actually get them to see this and get them to know what to expect, and then unleash this VA to come in and do that deep recon and work and go, this is what you need, so that they're in tune to that. And we can record that once and then we've got it forever. So highly leveraged as well.
Yeah, definitely. 100%.
I'm going to put that in there. See, this is the power. This one idea is now spawned off, and I'm like, I can legitimately see like how much of an improvement that would make to outsourcing angels.
Yeah, it's so cool. As you say, it's just having those right people around you to have these discussions with. It's like you wouldn't get this with the butcher up the road. Like that's not gonna it's not
Well,
gonna
no,
yield the
my
same.
butcher's pretty savvy. I don't know.
That's right. He has 17 franchise locations. He's a pretty strong guy.
But I do agree. Like it's 100%. Like I knew this exercise was going to be valuable, and this isn't something I do enough. But having people around you where you can have this type of conversation is super, super valuable. Something we make a priority in the association is to create an environment where we can have conversations with people like this.
Yeah,
So are
so
you
true.
ready for your number 3?
I'm ready. I'm stretched. Tell me.
Okay, so I of course wanted to make my approach very systemized. So number 1 is hiring your CEO. Number 2 is having things more systemized. So doing less services and making sure those services are systemizable, so you can have a seamless client experience that's very systemizable. So at Next, I thought, well, now it's time to go big and the bigger vision of your social voice. So this is where I see that if you're going around and speaking all over Australia and the world, which you already are, is we really need to maximize this leverage. We really need to kick that up a gear. Now, there's quite a limit on what your team can take on as a business. And I'm not saying they're not talented, because they're super talented, but they couldn't take 100 new clients tomorrow. It's not doable. So that becomes the roadblock. So based on that, you now have a system. I would like to explore licensing, franchising, and acquisitions.
Okay.
So to give you an example, if you were going to go over to the US, which I know you routinely do, is there should be a Your Social Voice in the US that can take on the leads and clients that you generate over from there. Now, I think this solves a problem that if you get US clients, that you're not dealing with time zones, or if you get clients in the UK, you're then not dealing with time zones, and that any clients you do work with in these locations get a much higher client experience because they're working with someone in their country.
I like it.
Now, the person I saw do this best was actually Brad Sugars from Action Coach. And we've been very, very fortunate that we get to hang around Fletcher Seal, who is just an amazing human that used to be involved in that organization. And when he kind of mentioned how well Brad did, and like you looked at all these things, is it was such a great business model that Brad was going around to all locations and speaking, and then using that as feeder for leads into his coaches and things like that. So that's the type of effect. Obviously not identical, it's a very different business, but I see that as being a huge opportunity of leveraging your talents on a really big scale. So at the moment, if you do a speaking gig, you might be able to handle 10 new clients, but if you had licensees or franchisees or other agencies that you've acquired all around the world, you literally could take on 100 clients at a go. So that's the big leverage piece for me. Now, what's funny is, and I have to look at this, is you found leverage in info. I found leverage in people. So once again, the people optimizer over here and the tech and system optimizer over there. So very, very interesting. So how do you feel about your new business?
I love it, man. When are you taking over as CEO so I can go speak, man? When's the first day? Oh, I love it, man. It's such great ideas. And I think the last one is very cool. And I think, as you said, like if 1 and 2 are executed correctly and that's all working, as you say, there's no reason, I'll hire a squadron to replicate that over in the drop that into the US for us. Because it is a place that we go, and I'm going to Paris in 10 days. So, like Europe and stuff like that as well. It would be, really, really cool. And I definitely like it. I'm going to put it into an action plan on what to do with that.
So we need an acquisitions squadron or a licensees squadron.
Yes, please. If you can have that up by tomorrow, it would be great.
So think about this as well. And like I look at this broadly at the moment, but I actually see a lot of agencies in general are just doing okay. They're not doing great. They're not, when the irony is a lot of them aren't actually very good at generating their own leads. And I say that nicely, but it's a very competitive space. It's a very flooded space. And to do well here, like you are, it takes a really solid business model. So I see the huge opportunity here is how many people would love to be branded under the Your Social Voice branding and to be able to get leverage off what you're doing so that they can focus just on doing great work and got a system provided.
Yeah, I like that a lot because I've been thinking of adding salespeople over in the States, but then as well, like if there's parts of if it's not a product, if it's a service, why not have part of the delivery team um, or a delivery team YSV US over there as well?
Oh, see, this is where it comes into it as well. So the irony, and if anyone comes back to our previous episodes, is we've often had the discussion that Kim was able to beat his sales team for the week in one day on his own. And this conversation is not uncommon. Like I know a lot of business owners that would say something similar. So the first thing is, well, one, is your sales team any good? Is what you ask yourself. And presuming they are, um, then what happens from there? This option also eliminates the need for a sales team at that level because it's all done off the leverage from your speaking gigs.
Mm.
Now, the only thing I don't like, and I'm just going to put it out from there, is that it requires you to speak. So there's a requirement on you doing things to generate the leads, but everything should be filmed and recorded, and then that becomes the content to leverage you out. So as you can see, I did think about and play these. Maybe I went too far on this game.
No, I love it. I think that's great, and yeah, it's a great idea because yeah, but I think there's but secondary to that as well is that I think, and I don't, there's a reason why it's called Your Social Voice and not like Kim Barrett Media or anything like that. It's because I want the company to do it. So as well, if some of these people have aspirations to speak and stuff like that as well, if they're a potential licensee or partner or whatever it ends up being like, then there's no reason why they can't be trained up to speak and have a fulfillment team under them as well.
Oh, so that was actually, point four, and I know we're not doing point four, but I looked at this as a model and I was like, if you did this for, let's say, the next 3 to 5 years and got it right, and then the natural referrals and content kicked in, this is a sellable baby to someone like Fairfax Media or one of the truly conglomerates at that point. So one of the larger, more things from there. And I go, that's the exit plan if from there. So 3 to 5 years of doing some great stuff here. And then I imagine this could be something that could be bought on that level.
I like it. I like it a lot.
So unofficial point four.
Unofficial point four. Thank you. I don't have an unofficial point four for you, but I appreciate you giving me one.
Well, how'd you find that experience, Kim?
That was cool. And to be honest, at the start, I was sitting there and I was like, how am I going to give Charlie any ideas? Right? I was like, and I was thinking of it from that perspective. Then I was like, no, just like, what if I had all these teams, instead of like thinking, what idea can I give to Charlie? It's like, what would I love to do? Like, or what would I love to have happen if I had all these people? Like, because you've got all the people, right? It's like, if I had all these people, what would I? And I was thinking, I was like, if I had an army of people, and that's why I came into the squadron stuff, right? I was like, if I had an army of people, what would I do with them? I was like, oh, then it started the ball rolling. So just even switching my thinking in that and going, instead of me going, how can I give something of advice to Charlie, and going, no, cool, if I actually was the CEO and I have all these people that I can do stuff with, what would I love to see and have happen?
Yeah, be honest, I was much the same. I really struggled in the beginning of this. I sat on my balcony in the sun, as you can see, anyone on the video, again, a little bit of color. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at with my Evernote, just going over this. It did take me a while to do this. It took me about an hour, I think, of going back and forth and refining. But much like you, I found myself going, okay, well, Kim's already killing it. What can I do? What can I offer? But it's funny when you dig deep enough and put your own spin on it. I think we both got an immense value out of this.
Yeah, it was great. And as you say, it's like, if you're thinking of that, it's not always, and I think that's the point. It's like, instead of going, how can I give that person advice? It's like, if I step in, if I am running the show and doing this, and the possibilities are infinite, like what would I do? And, but as you said, like, I think it's only because we probably both over the years have had enough problem solving experience where we're doing this. If you're trying to, as I said before, like jokingly, but the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, whoever it is, if you're trying to, and they're not used to problem solving on this level, then it's very hard to have those deeper conversations. Like this morning, we had there was a call I was listening to with Jeff Moore. I think it was called Deep Impact, and it's just like some of the questions he was giving people to be able to ask. I'm like, well, unless you've been doing this for that long, most people don't even pick up on that surface level stuff to know that they have to go deeper. And same for us, someone could have just said, "Oh, cool, get more clients, Charlie," or "Get for more JVs," But as opposed to like over time going, "Cool, well, if that's already there, go deeper." It is why it helps to have great people in your corner.
Absolutely. So this is, as we kind of mentioned a little bit prior, is this is what the association is all about. So for those of you that don't know what the association is, this is a mastermind group that me and Kim run that is very, very focused on doing joint ventures. But one of the key benefits of the association is really in its name, is that you get to associate with people at a great level who want to have conversations very much like this one. So one of the things I think we'll be pressing the members of the association to do is have a conversation like this with a couple of the other members. Get them to look at your stuff and you look at their stuff and start seeing those other things that can come from it. Start using those perspectives to take advantage of someone else's years of experience. So, Kim, how long have you been in business, by the way? Like, how many years now?
Like officially, I would say 5. Unofficially, I would say 14. Since I've been 15 years old, I've been running stuff and doing stuff. So on the unofficial scale.
So this is it in 1 hour, right? Which is about how long this podcast. I'm not timing it. It's somewhere around there. But I got to leverage your 14 years of experience into 1 hour. And it's very, very different from my years of experience. So crazy what can come past from having a conversation like this. So if you're a listener and you're maybe not in the association, you want to come join, please check out the links below this podcast and get involved in things like this. Or make sure at the very, very minimum that you go and have this type of conversation with someone you consider could offer you this type of value. So we'll wrap it up for this one, Kim. Any closing thoughts or ideas for the listeners?
So one thing I'll leave you guys with is that, the quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions you ask. But more importantly, it's the quality of the people you ask the questions to. So you can have the best question, but if you don't have someone to give you the best answer, if a tree falls in the wood, doesn't make any noise.
Oh, I'm not even going to try and top that. That was such a good finish. So that's it for us. Tune in next week as we'll probably have another interesting topic to discuss. Might not be that interesting, but I dare say we'll make it as interesting as we can. So that's it from us. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Confessions of a Business Owner.
See you guys.